What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the A24 Archive. This is the segment on my channel where I go back through A24's entire filmography from the first film they released all the way till whenever I get caught up. And if you have ever seen the movie I'm going to be talking about before, you know that the poster cover is on my t-shirt. So if you're unaware, I really like this movie a lot, clearly. And I was very excited to get to this point to be able to watch this movie again because I've seen it a couple of times since its initial release, and every time I revisit it, I feel like I get something new out of it. And this is from director Sean Baker, who over the years has become one of my favorite working directors. I feel like there's something about Sean's work that is incredibly beautiful and empathizing with people who don't normally get the benefit of the doubt and who often are stereotyped against and treated differently because of their living situations. And this movie highlights one of those groups in a way that I think is so beautiful and poignant. And the film I'm going to be talking about with you today is The Florida Project. The Florida Project is directed by Sean Baker. The story of a precocious 6-year-old and her ragtag group of friends whose summer break is filled with childhood wonder, possibility, and a sense of adventure, while the adults around them struggle with hard times. So, as I said, I absolutely adore this movie. This is in my top 5 films in A24's catalog right now, where we sit in my rewatch. This is just a remarkable cinematic experience because it is a movie that on the surface that seems so simple in its story, but it's very complex when it comes to unpacking the story of these characters. That is a story that so many people actually live through and deal with on a day-to-day basis. And it's visually brilliant. The cinematography, there's so much attention to detail in a film that didn't necessarily need to have that level of attention to detail. The performances in this thing are absolutely incredible, and I'm excited to break this movie down for you today. So at the beginning of the film, we're introduced to Mooney, played by Brooklynn Prince, who is a 6-year-old girl that lives at a motel in Orlando, Florida, outside of Disney World, and she spends all of her time playing with her friends Scooty and Jancy. They're wide-eyed and excited. It's the summertime, and they just love living life, and they love spending time together. And early in the film, we get a lot of conversations with the kids and them just really having a good time. And then shortly after, we're introduced to Haley, played by Bria Vinaite, who is Mooney's mother, and she is living at this hotel, and she is struggling financially, and she is doing everything that she can to kind of keep her head on her shoulders and take care of her daughter, but she's not necessarily the most equipped to be able to do those things, and she makes a lot of bad decisions amidst trying to take care of her daughter, and a lot of that has to do with the product of her circumstances. And we're introduced to various people that live inside of the hotel. We're also introduced to Bobby, played by Willem Dafoe, who is the manager of the hotel, who seems to have a true compassion for the people who live there. He gets very irritated, but you can tell that he really kind of goes out of his way for a lot of the people to help them as much as he can within the confines of his job, not getting in trouble. And the entire film is us seeing this place that is right outside of the most magical place on earth, but is filled with a lot of heartbreak. So as I said, I absolutely adore this movie. For starters, I want to talk about the performances. Bria Vinaite, that plays Haley in this movie, she had never done a movie, I believe, before she made this film, and Sean Baker, I think, saw her on Instagram, if I read right in an interview, and just thought that she would be absolutely perfect for the role. And she is phenomenal in this film. She encapsulates the role perfectly, and I feel like you can really just see the wide array of emotions that she goes through in this movie. You can tell that she thinks that she is doing what is best for her daughter, despite the fact that she makes a lot of stupid decisions and gets herself in really immense amounts of trouble. Brooklynn Prince, who plays Mooney at such a young age in this, she is a fantastic child actor and did a phenomenal job in this movie. I've talked about child actors before on my channel multiple times, and I think the thing with child actors is there are a lot that you can get that feel like they're just reading off a piece of paper, and then you get a performance like this, which really feels like an authentic kid living their life, and the 2 kids that play her friends both do a phenomenal job. And I think this movie, you kind of lose yourself in it at some point where it doesn't feel like you're watching a movie anymore. It really just feels like you're watching people live their day-to-day lives. And that is an impressive thing for both these performers and for Sean Baker as a director to be able to do that. Willem Dafoe gives probably one of my favorite performances in his career, and it's not necessarily one of his most complex performances, but just this character, you can feel how long he's been in this position and the amount of things that he has seen in his day-to-day life. You're at this place that's supposed to be a place you just come stay for a brief amount of time, but these people can barely make it paycheck to paycheck, and they're living here long term because there's no other viable option for them. And they have a policy where they can't establish residency, so after a period of time they have to move out of the room and leave for 24 hours so that they don't get in trouble. And it's really, you get all of the details into how this place operates and what kind of things Willem Dafoe's character sees as the manager, and his character is just brilliant in this. And I really like having a character here who has that complex dilemma of wanting to help these people but also not being able to get involved to an extreme extent because it's your job. And I can only imagine how difficult of a headspace that has to be in. The cinematography in this, as I said earlier, is fantastic. I love the visual presentation. There's so much attention to detail in the way that the scenes are shot, especially when the kids are like outside exploring. It really makes their world when they're out and about feel very magical, despite the fact that it's not. And I think that that's a testament to Sean Baker's incredible filmmaking. And the scenes inside the apartment are shot much differently. And I think that the contrast between the worlds is really incredible. And obviously, as I said early in this video, one of the things I love about Sean Baker as a filmmaker is a lot of his movies are talking about people from different parts of the United States that go through very different things than your average person. And a lot of times he is looking at lower income areas or people of poverty or people that work in the sex work industry and how they're constantly looked down upon and treated differently. And he does it in a way that there's this overwhelming empathy towards the people where it's never looking at them in a negative light. Like I look at this movie or Red Rocket or Starlet or Tangerine, and the characters, regardless of the fact of whether or not they're making a good or a bad decision, they're never viewed as terrible people. And I think that that's such an important thing, because I think in our society now, you know, our country, it's 2024, and in the United States, you'd think we'd be at a point where people are more open and accepting because of how advanced we are technologically, and with access to knowledge, you would assume that people are more accepting and caring. But you look at what's going on with the LGBTQ community, or still how people of color are treated. You look at the way people in the lower income welfare state are viewed as like they're just lazy or they don't try, or like all of the stereotypes surrounding these groups of people. And Sean Baker kind of strips all that away and says, okay, if you want to perceive people that way, look at how their actual lives occur. Look at how these people operate on a day-to-day basis. And I think that makes it very eye-opening and very important that movies like this exist, so that people that don't live that life, whether you're a middle-class person or you're a wealthy person, and you don't see how people in this area operate, it's important because it humanizes them. It shows you like these are people, they are human beings trying to live their lives, and they haven't been put in the same situation as you. And it's unfortunate. And then you get to see that lifestyle through the eyes of a child who doesn't know any better. They don't understand money. They don't understand like how you have to operate in order to live somewhere, or how much a house costs, or any of those things. And I just think movies like this are so incredibly important for people to see. And every time I watch this film, it emotionally impacts me more. The third act of this movie takes a pretty big risk, and I know there's a lot of people who really don't like it, but I love it a lot. I think that it shows, you know, through the eyes of a child, the hopefulness of the life that they wish that they could live. And it's almost like a dream-like sequence of just that want and that need for normalcy, despite the fact that even though this is a young kid, they probably realize that they'll never be that form of normalcy. And it's just a really beautiful and eye-opening piece of film that makes me cry more every time I watch it. And if you've never seen this movie before, this is like essential A24 viewing, in my opinion. Sean Baker's entire filmography is essential viewing, in my opinion. I think he's a remarkable director, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's one of my favorite films in A24's catalog. So if you've seen The Florida Project, do you love it? Do you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. I love this movie a lot. It's a movie I enjoy more every time I watch it, and I always look forward to revisiting it. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.